Okay, so this morning I'm going to talk about kind of what I'm learning here about ink and paint. We're always looking for kind of the magic cookie, the magic process that will make the workflow even smoother, even faster, even more fun. And I can show you here the thing I was saying in my last post about the tunes raster levels, well, really about the mypaint brushes. So this would hold true whether it's a raster level or a tunes raster level. But the problem you run into is that you're always having to do a lot of touch up in the paint if you ink with mypaint brushes, and I think I can show why here. This, we kind of thought maybe we'd put a gag in here where she's got a knife on the ninja guy, and it kind of goes back and forth, and the one, they're kind of like looking at each other, and then all of a sudden, well, I won't get into all the details, but one of the things that happens is she kind of goes up like this with her hand, like she's going to do something, and he's kind of like, it's this tense moment, and all of a sudden, and boom, she puts her hair up. Okay, now that might sound kind of stupid, but we thought it would actually be funny in the context of the scene. So anyway, this other pose, which came from her character sheet more directly because I had to modify her hair for the actual shot, this was inked mostly with the mypaint brushes. So this is like a mypaint pencil, all of this, but you can kind of see if you look close that this line is a little cleaner. Well, this line was actually drawn with with a regular, just a standard tunes raster brush. Now here's the thing that's interesting. If I hit Alt F, which I have mapped to my fill check, which I love the fact that I can always be monitoring whether I'm going to get good clean fills, but you'll notice if you look close, see all the noise associated with the mypaint brushes. Now this is not a flaw in OpenTunes, it's not a flaw in the mypaint brushes because those brushes do, they don't create a solid black line. They create a line with many gradations of value in the stroke. So it's no great surprise that when you go to fill this, especially down here, I mean, when I look at this at actual size, it looks really good, but when I zoom in, I can see that it maybe is not going to fill very cleanly, and if I turn on the fill check, I'm guessing these border areas are going to be very problematic. Now we can test that. Let's take this standard tunes raster color and just add another one, and then hit the fill tool. Yeah, see, and we want to turn. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. There's exactly what happens over and over and over again. And the thing is, you see it in all kinds of places. If I turn the fill check back on, it's not like there's a direct mapping between these mid dark gray tones and the way it fills, but my guess is that by contrast, everything around this flesh tone is going to fill pretty cleanly. Okay, so what's the solution? I think that I noted yesterday that if you get into, and by the way, I'm going to undo both of those moves, that if you get into the process of constructing a scene, this shot here, for example, I would consider this to have been a mistake. In that, I wonder why okay, there it goes. In that you got 4 drawings here where her eyes are narrowing, and literally the only thing changing in this four shots is her eyes, which means that I have copied or redrawn the rest of her body 4 times. Well, why is that a problem? It's a problem because when you go to do the painting, if you have one of these problematic areas that's like a pain in the butt to get painted cleanly, you're doing touch up with the paint roller brush, or you're doing touch up with the freehand version of the fill tool, whatever you're doing, you have to do 4 times instead of 1 time. Okay, so what's kind of the answer to this problem? Well, the reason that I like the mypaint brushes for inking is mainly because of this sort of pencil-y sort of character that you get in the lines. So what can we do about that? Well, I'm thinking that, number one, the main value of my paintbrushes in the Toons raster levels, for me at this point, really has to do with doing things like shadows and hair, because the my paintbrushes in the Toons raster level allow you to get a painterly line, and you can change the colors after the fact. So if I wanted to come in here and say I got the, okay, I guess that's the wrong tone. Let me go K. I'm in the wrong layer. Am I in the wrong layer? Okay, well, let's just go to one of the drawings. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm guessing it's because of the plastic tool mesh is why it will not let me sample or edit here. So yeah, mesh deformed level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the drawing itself and just sample that. Okay, so basically the great thing is, and I'm showing this with the solid fill, obviously, instead of the fully painted version. But my point is that with the my paint brushes, I can go in here and change the colors later, just like you can with vector level or a regular, obviously a Toons raster level, before we had the ability to use my paint brushes. So just that extra flexibility. But what I'm thinking is, from an ink standpoint, I think the mentality needs to be, get the whole scene planned out with a pencil drawing, do the pencil test, and obviously the rest of the entire animation industry figured this out before I did. Okay, so I get that. The idea is, go get your animation and your timing, get all that figured out at the pencil test. Don't do it at the ink stage, because the ink and the paint really need to run in tandem for the most part. And plus, when you're at the inking stage, you want to then think about situations like this where you say, well, I actually want to break my character up into a couple more levels so that I only have one drawing of her body to fiddle with, and anything else that's maybe going to be animated should be in a different level. And if I need to combine them, like with the plastic tool, so they all work as a single unit, no problem, I can always do that. Okay, but what I'm thinking is that I want to have sort of the sketchy artist action animator mentality when I do that pencil test, but once it's time to ink and paint, I really want to think more like a technician. This is grunt work, you know. And I'm thinking that the solution might be vector levels, because if I put a vector level here, I think that the arc tool, the polyline, okay, let me say this. The regular brush tool for a vector level has always been problematic. I don't really enjoy using it. It's a pain for reasons I won't get into right now. This version, the latest version of OpenToons, well, I don't know if this is technically the latest. This is Turtletooth's OpenToons Experimental, so it's a portable version of OpenToons that's pretty bleeding edge. I did notice that the vector brushes do work more predictably in this version, which is great. But what I'm going to show here is, well, what do I think is maybe the correct approach to inking that will give us a controllable, predictable result, and also give us the ability to get that pencil line, rough sketchiness that I like. I think the answer is to use vectors and then use vector brushes. Use vector effects on the brushes. That's what I'm thinking. So how would that look? Well, what we do is, first of all, let's grab the arc tool. So that's the G key, and then instead of rectangle, I want arc. Okay. So the way the actual inking process would look would be, you might be doing a lot of this. Click, click. Okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Click, click. Okay, we might have found a bug. That's unfortunate. Here I'm talking about. Yeah, well, there you go. Here I am talking about a technique that seems to be a real winner, and the first thing that happens once I get on YouTube is it starts acting bizarrely. I mean, look at this. First of all, there's some variation in the size of the line that shouldn't be there, and it's actually blowing up every time. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to assume, because I was literally just doing this with the same version of OpenTunes, same everything on my laptop, and I wasn't having this issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the classic OpenTunes thing. I'm going to save my work and just rerun OpenTunes. It's highly likely that the problem will just go away. That's one of the good things about OpenTunes. Yeah, there are bugs, but usually they kind of either fix themselves, and you don't have a high cost normally to having to, the worst that happens with OpenTunes usually is you just have to reload it. It's not a huge thing. So let's just try this again. I'm going to hit the G key. Let's just see if we have better results. Okay, it looks to me like, yeah. So the only thing I can attribute this to, in my opinion, is the Artist 15.6, the XP Artist, XP Pen Artist 15.6 tablet that I use, which I was using a regular Wacom tablet on the laptop. But you know what? The good news is, if we're going to do it this way, we don't really need the tablet anyway. I mean, this type of inking can be done very well with a mouse, so I'm going to do that. And look, see, that line looks way better. Yes. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to turn snapping on so these guys connect together. And I'll kind of just show you what the inking process might look like. Click, 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 click. And like I said, you're working more like a technician. If you're a Blender person, you might go, this is more like working in Blender because you're working with a mouse. It's more technical than it seems artistic, and that's fine. It's actually a good way to work. It's pretty fast. And the results are very clean, very predictable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and close this, and now I'm going to hit Alt F, and have I got that hotkey right? Fill check. Okay, yeah, so it looks like I don't have a clean fill situation here. So that's a little bit problematic. By the way, I want to make that adjustment and probably actually take that node out. So this is the good thing about vectors, is you can make these sorts of adjustments after the fact. Typically vectors are more problematic when it comes to fills. And one thing that's suggested is if it turns out that it is kind of problematic about fills, then you could always ink this way and then go ahead and do a cleanup step and convert it to a Tunes raster level for painting. But like I said earlier, I kind of feel like maybe the painting and inking process really want to run in tandem. So why is this not showing clean fills? I don't know. Let's actually try to fill it and see what happens. Control C, Control V. Okay. Turns out, as soon as I wanted to fill it, everything worked. So okay, I can live with that. So it was being a little funky. Okay, so now the problem we're going to have is that, what about our pencil-y sort of lines that we like? Okay, so if I grab the S key and I go ahead and select all this, and I say, well, okay, this is at the width of my lines are one unit. Let's leave it there. Okay, so what we're going to do is go over here to the vector brushes, and the ones that seem to be pretty slick. Okay, that's interesting. So that shows all of them. I was using, I believe, this one or this one. Okay, cool. I did the wrong palette entry. I wanted to do the black. Okay, so when you do the black, what happens is, let's go to render mode and let's unselect these guys and go to actual size. So now we need to go ahead and turn off this other drawing so you can see what happens. Okay, so now you get this sketchy look, and there's some little gaps, but yet the vector is actually still there, so it still fills perfectly fine. And I have to admit, I like the way it looks. You can try different ones. That's, not horrible. But the point is that, yes, in fact, there is a way to get a sketchier, noisier ink line without necessarily having to use the mypaint brushes. And ultimately, this does give you quite a lot of control. Again, the one I seem to like the best was this one. No, I'm sorry, this one. Okay, and the other thing about it is, too, that it gives you a little bit more latitude on your line thickness, in my opinion. Okay, so you see what I mean? The more, now, if I kick it up to around 5, all of a sudden this vector effect is more pronounced. Now, is that necessarily a good thing? In this case, maybe not. But you can look around. This one's probably better, frankly. That actually looks more like what I would probably want, and it seems like maybe a size of 3 would be about right. But the cool thing is we can always go back after the fact and make those tweaks. So I'm going to turn the S key off, and so you can see that's a very sketchy type of line, and that's really what I am after. So if I can do that with vector layers and eliminate the problem of fills, because this, vectors, if they're closed, they fill really nicely. I mean, it's like vector art, right? So I'm thinking vectors, because at the end of the day, we have to, this is not optional, we have to have a quality and aesthetic on the final product that's toe-to-toe similar to any anime that's out there. So we have to be really rigorous as we examine our tools and where their strengths and weaknesses lie, to just choose the workflow that works, right? And I think this is going to work pretty well. Some aspects of the ink and paint process may turn out to be a little bit tedious, because it is grunt work. It's not as much just sketching with the pen and stuff. But who cares? I love the way it looks, and the actual inking process is kind of fun. So that's a double win. Now the question becomes, am I going to go back here and change this one? Well, I think you guys know the answer to that. The first thing I'm going to do right now is, see those eyes. The eyes are baked in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make the ultimate sacrifice. I'm going to delete my eyes. Delete. And I'm going to go to this drawing, and I'm actually going to go to these 3 drawings right here. I'm going to hit Control X, and I'm going to delete them. They no longer exist. And I'm going to save my work, so there's no going back and changing my mind. Okay. And by the way, this shadow layer's a little bit sloppy too. But what I wanted to do, the reason I did this, is so that I can go in and redo the ink with vectors. So let's turn this off. Let's turn this off. Let's turn this off. Oh, my original pencil drawing was deleted. So that means I have to use this as my reference. That's okay. So I'm going to turn that down and give it just enough so I can see it. So now let's test our new workflow. All right, step 1. Let's insert a Toons vector level. And we're not going to do the eyes. We're not going to do the mouth, because those things are going to be animated later. So let's just go ahead and stretch this down to here. And let's rock and roll with the arc tool. Now, the arc tool tells me size is 1. I guess that's what I want. I can always make it bigger later. So Okay, so this is kind of interesting because the reason I've always sort of hesitated to do it this way, it's just kind of stupid actually. It's got to do with the fact that in my mind these, like to do this is like weird to me because you know this is not what it is. What it is a line that goes like this and defines the arc of her body. You know, so I sort of have to get past that silly little attitude. Actually, let me go ahead and undo that one. I'm going to switch to the polyline tool for this. One nice thing about the polyline tool is you can actually move the screen around after using it, while you're using it in mid-stroke, if you will. Okay, so now, and so you may find that the polyline tool is actually a little better in some respects than the, because now I'm hitting the C key. I'm just going ahead and making these adjustments. Right? So, like I said, it's pretty quick. It's not prohibitively clunky or difficult. Now, that line, frankly, I want to leave open because I'm probably going to pull out, and this is another advantage of using vectors for inks, is they're scalable. That means if I zoom way out to a full body shot from this shot, it's still going to look crisp and clean and good, you know. So we're learning as we go. And the key thing here is we've got to have ruthless standards and not be chimping up till this up until this last 1 minute sequence was done. I sort of chimped on a lot of things, and that was okay because it was like the process of sort of just getting our workflow figured out. But I kind of feel like we have, and now it's time to be more serious about making sure this stuff really looks professional. Professional's a good word. And if it doesn't, then it's not good enough. That's all there is to it. We're not doing this just to dink around. Okay, so as you can see, I'm finding myself using the polyline tool a lot more than the arc tool. You know, use whatever gets you to the result. And then I'm coming back with the C key. And making adjustments. And what you see when you go ahead and grab the line and move it, then the next thing that happens is the Bezier control handles appear. So that makes it quite a bit easier to fine-tune your lines. When you grab the line itself, you can only move the line, and the Bezier handles sort of do whatever they're going to do. But once you've moved the line, since the handles appear, you can then go ahead and make them go in different directions like that or whatever. So tighten that up just a little bit. And as you can see, because of the fill tool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a modification here that looks a little silly, but my point is to make it blatantly obvious where the this one single polyline is definitely going to be probably eliminated later, because I'm pretty sure we are going to be cutting to a wide shot. So snap. Okay. Yep, it all fills nicely. It all looks really good. So So of course, since I'm always worried about speed, the question becomes, well, is this faster than if I had inked it by hand with the Toons raster level? And the answer is, I don't know. It feels like it's probably similar. Here I can hit Alt. I believe, or maybe it's Control. Yes, hit Control and just add another node. No problem. That's again with the C key. And actually here what I want to do is delete that node. And then go like this and fine tune it. Right? Again, Control. There we go. And just to be exactingly perfect. Now here's where being exacting doesn't matter. I mean, I can certainly decide for myself after the fact that maybe I don't want to follow my original drawing. There's no rule about that. But you know, generally I want to. So if we hit Alt F, it looks like everything is nicely fillable. So I'm going to save my work, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and just grab these colors right here, because I'm going to need them. Go back to the vector level, hit Control V. Great. Now I can go F key, fill, 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 nightgown, hair, basis of the hair. That's for her eyes. Okay, so that's not too bad. Now what we want to do is say, what do we really want these lines to look like? Okay, and there's a couple other things. I mean, there are other details I probably should add. For example, the hair is definitely going to be back in there. I mean, the hair texture, if you will. But the thing I want to deal with now is the lines. So I'm going to grab this, and let's just play it safe and say we're going to do what we said before. Okay, if we're going to do that, then I am going to take the S key, grab everything in sight, and just kick these up to 3. And let's just go Control D. Did that work? Better save my work. I'm sorry, Control R? Yes, Control R. That puts us up at a different... Okay, now what I want to do here is I need to go ahead and kill that layer. The shadow layer can kind of stay in there. Let's do it this way. Let's hit F3 for the schematic. Here's the plastic tool. Now what I want to do is I want to lock the edges. I want to clamp the shadow to inside of the mesh that was generated by the plastic tool. So one question that's coming to mind right now is, what the heck is column 6? I think column 6 is actually a vector level I created on the laptop, accessing the same scene, and then I forgot it was already there, so I created a redundant one. No problem. Okay, so now I don't want this to be visible. Now, just to be complete in the explanation here, this problem right here is the result of the fact that the plastic tool mesh was generated against this drawing. It was generated against this drawing, not the vector one, so obviously the lines are in slightly different places. So basically this needs to be eliminated and redone. The easiest way to do that is just delete it. Okay, so now we're going to get rid of that for preview purposes. Save our work. And so now the question becomes, how does it look with these vector lines? And I guess my answer is not bad, not perfect. There's a certain amount of noise in this style where I like the variations in the thickness, but I don't necessarily like the fact that it leaves these little gaps. You can see if we went back to a standard brush, you wouldn't have that. So what about this one? Okay, so that's pretty noisy. I know it seems ridiculous, but it might not be as ridiculous as it seems if you cranked the line size down from 3 back to, you know, something like 1. But let's try some of these other ones. Let's just see how they feel. That actually seems better because you still get the variation in line size, and there's your actual size right there. So not sure I'm totally thrilled with these gaps. That's not bad. That is bad. I want whatever looks the most like pencil lines, frankly. You know what? That's probably the best compromise right there. Let's see what that one looks like. That one's good too. So these ones here. Now I have a suspicion. Yeah, you can see it when I zoom in and out. One of the downsides with using vector effects like this is they do tend to slow down the performance of OpenTunes kind of a lot, actually. So that's going to slow down previews. So you can see as I'm scrolling in and out. Let's watch what happens if I go like this. Now it's instant. So that's something to be aware of. But you know what? If we save the process of modifying the vectors until sort of the last step, we don't really care about the performance penalty. Doesn't matter. What matters is how does it look. Okay, so let's see here. It's been 30 minutes. So I think we've got a good solution because I really like the way this looks. Yeah, can't complain. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and bring the eyes back in. So what I need to do is move this layer, put this layer on top of this layer. Let's put this on the way outside, so that we can use it as a reference. And I think that's it for now. What are these called? These are called vector brushes. And so that's basically what this video has been about. So yeah, more later as usual.